All right. Well, so I bought me a G0514X2B, which is a Grizzly's 19-inch. I think probably built very similarly to the 17-inch 513, and the X2 being the one with the cast iron pieces, and the B, um, the one with a motor brake on it. It came with, all the standard stuff. There's a lot of reviews on there online, which you can find, and it's real similar in a lot of aspects to a lot of that same, all those other reviews. The main difference is, or the thing I found was that it kind of was a little bit rough when I first got it. Like the wheels were just a smidge out of balance. They are computer balanced, and they did do a pretty good job on them. But I found them to be like maybe 2-3 grams out of balance, which it's not really a big deal. I think most of the shaking that I was getting was actually not from the wheels, but from the belt. When I replaced it with the belt from Harbor Freight, I went ahead and bought one of those little link belts right here. You can kind of see it back here, right there. When I bought one of those, it seemed to kind of solve more of the issues than anything anything else. The other thing I did was I went ahead and got the fancier urethane tires. It comes with black, possibly urethane tires that were from that they make or the Grizzly sells. But they're just a smidge bit lumpy. I mean, you can kind of tell when you rotate them and you feel it. You can kind of feel a little lump, and just little bitty vibrations like that. Once it is what causes the blade to get its harmonics, and you can't balance the nickel up there, all that kind of stuff. One of the things I also found after lots and lots of messing around with it was that over tensioning the blade is something you kind of want to avoid as a whole. Really, on a 3/4 inch blade, the one that comes stock with it, which is actually kind of it's an okay blade. I mean, it's you can use it to get it into balance, and you can use it up pretty quickly. But yeah, the main downside is it just doesn't cut very fast. I mean, but as you can see, I mean, and this is the Timberwolf. I've got it set to almost the same tension that I had set for the other 3/4 inch blade. So I got 2.5, and most of the flutter goes away. What I found was flutter kind of comes and goes through the tension range, and it's kind of like as it's going, as you like get it tighter and tighter, it'll be flutter, 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 flutter. You increase the tension, and it goes away. Increase it just a little bit more, and then flutter comes back. I mean, you can go all the way up to I had it down here like 6 and 7 on the blade first, and man, it just like it was just something you couldn't chase away. I started there was this one guy online that talked about how instead of centering the bandsaw tire up on the thing, he said put the just along the back edge of the blade on the crown of the wheel, because it's kind of crowned like that. And then your back edge will be almost to the back edge of the tire, and do it to go ahead and do it like that. And he also had a thing where, hey, when with everything out of the way, when you put it on there, tension, you should be able to tap it and get about 1/8 inch of play. Now, that kind of, it was a little bit loose on for me. I got a little bit tighter than that, but because what happens is if you have it that loose, it kind of starts drifting pretty easily. Even with your guide set, pretty tight, it still will tend to kind of have a little bit more play than you might want. So I've got set a smidge tighter than that, but it wasn't a bad rule of thumb as a whole. I mean, I would suggest that as a good starting spot, and just kind of go a little bit tighter than that. One thing I did not like is they say that this bandsaw is rated for up to 1.25 inch blade, but the width of the tire is 1 inch. It's not 1.25 inches, it's 1 inch. Now the whole width of the wheel might be 1.25 inches, But if you do that, you're gonna have your bandsaw blade like riding all up on top of the steel part, which kind of, you know, defeats the purpose of all of that. Yeah. So this is a 3/4 inch blade, and you can see there's about maybe a little, right around a 1/4 inch or a little less right there on the front edge of it. And it's riding pretty close to the back edge of the, I mean, you can't really see that very well, but it's kind of riding right on the back edge of the tire there as far as alignment goes. One thing, I'll go ahead and review this Timberwolf blade. They've got great service. Timberwolf does. I haven't called Grizzly service because what happened was I bought. I looked on the Grizzly manual and it said the blade that you can put up to 141.5 to 143 inches for your blade length. And so I was like, well, I'll buy a 142 inch blade because I'd like to have a little bit extra play if it stretches, that kind of stuff, because 143 you would think would be the max length. Well, a 142 inch blade will not fit on here. There's absolutely no way that I can tell to really change that. This whole entire bracket piece that the wheel sits on is hinged on there, and of course it pushes in and out with this little piece here. Actually, I need to tighten that. I mean, you tighten that in and out, and it pushes that whole thing out. And this cam mechanism lifts the swing piece right here, that little pin, but that pin pretty much kind of is what the whole thing rests on. It doesn't move up and down. Well, I mean, it's not exactly like that. That pin actually holds the steel part, but this thing is what everything rides on. So the whole pin is riding on this, which rotates up and down. So like, I don't know, I'll see if I can do that or not, but when you rotate your cam to release the tension on blade, you can see, it's pulling that up and down. Now with that all the way down, and the tension is set all the way down, all the way to the bottom, there was no, I mean, you might have been able to get 142.5 maybe, but it would have been a tight fit. So I'm not sure why they have that listed, and I'm not sure why they have it listed that it'll take 1.25 inches. Because if I was going to put it in, I bought a 1-inch blade, and I'm still kind of nervous that it's going to ding this a little bit, so I might actually end up grinding that down or something. I don't know yet. I haven't figured that out yet, because the blade I bought is a 1-inch carbide tip blade that I'm going to put on there for some use. And yeah, so those are two things that you should be aware of if you're looking at this saw, that the specs are not quite correct on it. They I mean, not that it couldn't be made to do that. I mean, I think it's got the ability to tension up to hold 1.25 inches. I think and maybe the crest of the tire would allow it, enough the clearance for the teeth to not ride on that steel there. But I don't know. We'll see. I haven't put it on there, so. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else. Something. So, yeah, I mean, as a whole, it's a pretty good blade. I bought. One thing, Timberwolf. Anyway, what I was saying is that they've got pretty good customer service. I was pretty so they took back the blades I bought with the 142 inch blades, and they charge their 10% restocking fees, and so that's $20 on a blade like that. Well, so the blade I got today, and I've been waiting for these blades to finally do a video on this, because I searched all over the web for reviews on one of these saws, and there's not a lot of them. So the way they welded it here, you can almost see there's a little bit of a thing there. So what happens, and maybe I should return it, but I'm tired of waiting for having a blade there. But it wobbles. Let me see if I can set that so you can index it on the back, maybe one of those little spots there, and you can see how it moves back and forth at the weld. Okay, so right there. So it moves back, and it seems imperceptible, but when you've got it where, like, if you watch the teeth, okay, so you will see that it moves back, and so it hits the little wheel back, the backstop, and goes, and that creates vibration. And so what is a pretty dang smooth blade on a pretty dang smooth setup now becomes kind of, so it's, and your nickel won't stand up. So that's important. Keep that in mind. Make sure, this is a blade I got just to be a rough and tumble blade. I mean, so if it's rough, that's fine. I've got another blade that if it's out of line, I'll return it. But that's something to just keep in mind. I mean, I think that's something to be aware of with any bandsaw blade, really. So, okay, operation, what I got. Yeah, it came in a crate, weighed 580 pounds. It was heavy as hell. I got it in here with some friends. Actually, the new ones do come with cable. I've got it over here on the floor. I took the old cable out, and I put in my own huge long cable I had already bought from the store, and went ahead and replaced the plug, because the 240 plug I happen to have right now is a 50 amp plug, which I had for a welder. So I'll probably fix that out later on and put a smaller, more appropriate plug on there, once I wire the garage up here a little bit better. But that's what I've got set up right now. So yeah, but it as a whole, it's a pretty good package. It's a good deal. I mean, I think saving that money for a bandsaw this size is, you kind of can't go wrong. You might have to put a little work into it to get it up to par for something, that might come out of the box that way already. But you can kind of hear the a little bit now. What I did, maybe it's not the way to do it, but I took my grindstone and I just kind of let's see if I can make this focus in here while I'm doing that. You can see it. Anyways, and so I just kind of did that to kind of dress up the back of it a little bit. Also to get some of the wobble, but you can see now that it's running, that wobble is significantly, way more obvious than what it is when it's just me turning it by hand. Yeah, it comes with this. It comes with this, the little saw, the resaw saw. Like the little things. What do you call it? Some people talking about how this doesn't index off this or the face of this. It indexes off the face of this to the 0 mark. That's probably true. I haven't tested it yet. Hold on. Motor brake turns off pretty quick. What unlocks that? Like you'll notice, it won't move up and down. Turn the power completely off, and turns all the way off. Now, something that I do, maybe it's a bad habit, is rather than just pushing it until it locks, just a momentary break of power kills it. So like when you're on and it's on, just small little break of power, it's a magnetic switch, so it just turns right the hell off. So that's good. I don't bother trying to turn it all the way off. So anyway, this, once you come to get that off, if you bring it all the way up to your blade, bink, you're on the blade, and it's just a smidge off. But if you index it on the outside edge of the marker, which is kind of how if you're marking things, always just pick one side of your line to always use, be consistent. So like if you're doing 1/2 inch, do it like that, so it looks like. But for all I know, and maybe they did this on purpose, the width of that thing may be the width of the curve or something, but I don't really use this bar much, because I usually just measure it straight from the blade to this piece anyway, because yeah, well, you know, once you've got that, it all goes to hell, shit in a handbag. So you got to go ahead and just measure it directly that way, you know, with your measuring tape or whatever it is, you know, and you can either try to offset it and measure the back side of the blade or measure the front side with a curve, or just depends on what you're cutting and what you plan to do with it. So far I found that even with the stock blade, you can get pretty dang thin cuts. I mean, my brother thought this was fun. I had actually cut this one piece of wood and just showing him how good it, or how thin it could cut, which, you know, it can cut pretty thin. And you can kind of see how rough the stock blade was as far as cutting. This blade's probably not too much smoother, actually, and maybe all bandsaw cuts are like that. So, yeah, putting the little piece into the curve bit like that, he thought it was entertaining. So, when you can cut a piece of wood about as thick as your blade, that's pretty good, I think. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. Now, as far as resawing something like that, I think you probably could still do it. I haven't had a need to do something like that yet. But so yeah, I think that's, as a whole, that's the bandsaw. Hopefully you enjoy this review. I know it's a little bit informal, and I'm sure I'll get a few thumbs downs just because of that. I tried to throw in one or two profanities just so. Oh yeah, I put the magnets on there. That's a good way to hold your tools. Just buy these little neodymium magnets, whatever you want to call them, and yeah, it. Let's see here. I don't have dust collection yet, so I still collect a little bit of dust when I cut, or a lot, depends on your point of view. Bandsaws don't make nearly as much dust as table saws, and they do not make as much as routers. All right, so have fun. Hope you enjoyed 17 minutes of chatter. Take care. Bye.